Well, President Trump followed through yesterday on one of his campaign promises. He imposed sweeping tariffs on practically every country in the world.
Of course, there are many concerns that his tariffs will drastically impact markets and raise prices at home. But the president seems to think there's a brighter future ahead.
We truly can be very wealthy. We can be so much wealthier than any country. It's not even believable. The United States can no longer continue with a policy of unilateral economic surrender. We cannot pay the deficits of Canada, Mexico, and so many other countries. We used to do it. We can't do it anymore. We take care of countries all over the world. We pay for their military. We pay for everything they have to pay. And then when you want to cut back a little bit, they get upset that you're not taking care of them any longer. But we have to take care of our people, and we're going to take care of our people first. And I'm sorry to say that.
Here's a list of some notable Trump tariffs. Of course, the most eyebrow-raising one is the 700% tariff on rice from Japan. Trump's tariffs on China are up to 54%. Then there's a 20% tariff on the European Union, 32% tariff on Taiwan, 26% on India, 49% on Cambodia, among others. Trump is also imposing reciprocal tariffs on 60 countries that will take effect on April 9th.
Of course, while some of these countries vehemently disagree with Trump's approach, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had a message for them.
My advice to every country right now is do not retaliate. Sit back, take it in, let's see how it goes, because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high watermark.
The Chamber of Commerce's Executive Vice President, Neil Bradley, said in a statement, "What we have heard from businesses of all sizes across all industries from around the country is that these broad tariffs are a tax increase that will raise prices for American consumers and hurt the economy."
For U.S. Trade Representative under former President Bush, Robert Zoellick, he said beyond the direct impact of the tariffs themselves, the constant flip-flops create confusion, adding a cost of uncertainty that impedes planning, especially for small businesses. What's more, the inevitable retaliation, some we're already seeing, will hurt America's successful exporters, especially farmers and cutting-edge machinery and service industries. Speaker Mike Johnson, on the other hand, defended Trump's move. Writing on X, President Trump is sending a clear message with Liberation Day. America will not be exploited by unfair trade practices anymore. These tariffs restore fair and reciprocal trade and level the playing field for American workers and innovators. The president understands that free trade only works when it's fair. So here we are, Niall, and I'm in the unenviable position of being, the right of center commentator, but I do not agree with everything the Republican Party does or that Trump does, just as you don't agree with everything the Democratic Party does or Biden or Kamala Harris do. This is maybe the singular issue at which I am most at odds with what President Trump is doing. Now, I am not alone in that regard, as are virtually all leading conservative intellectuals, free market economists, editorial pages. And I know it's not, and I hear that, well, so just whatever big business wants should be the country's policy, and I don't agree with that. And when Trump says, we bail out, we pay for these countries' militaries and all those things, I'm like, okay, well, cut that. Then don't do that. That is just directly giving our money to other countries. Let's cut that out. I'm all for it. But the reality is that the tariffs are tax increases. They will make things more expensive for working Americans. They will make it harder for small businesses because our economies are so integrated across the globe. Even if you're doing something that is narrowly good for one industry, well, what if that industry relies on lumber or steel or machine parts or food or energy that is coming from somewhere else in the world, so now you're raising the cost of that. We're basically all just deciding that everything should be less efficient and more expensive for everyone everywhere. The best possible result of this would be for everyone to admit the tariffs are a bad idea and for other countries to get rid of those as well. I hear Trump on the, well, if they're so bad, why are they doing it? Well, they shouldn't be doing it either. But just because they're shooting themselves in the foot doesn't mean we have to do that too. And so I hope the response to this is okay, let's all end tariffs. But in the short term, this is going to hurt very badly.
Yeah, and I think it is one of those issues where Trump's propensity for sloganeering or for easy solutions easily leads itself into very self-defeating conclusions and self-defeating policies. Because his argument, well, he has actually two arguments that are in conflict with one another, in my view. One is the idea that this is going to revitalize American manufacturing. If that's the case, you have to keep tariffs in place for years while factories get built and supply chains change and all of that. Then the other alternative is, well, it's this sort of Trump flexing of the muscle to draw concessions from other nations. Maybe it's that, but if it's that, you want a quick fix and you don't want it dragging on for years. But I think sometimes some specifics are useful in this, and I was looking up Bangladesh at random. There's a 37% tariff imposed now on Bangladesh. The main export of Bangladesh to the United States is garments, t-shirts and all the rest of it. The average wage in Bangladesh is $213 a month. The average wage in the United States is about $5,500. Now, obviously, factory workers lower than both those levels, but there isn't any conceivable tariff or any conceivable price point that makes that a viable option in the long term, that we're suddenly going to revitalize the American t-shirt making industry. Yes. That's just simply not going to happen.
Yes. And if they were, and let's say they're what we were bringing in from them was some other product that is essential to some other business, that then what if you could always narrowly benefit one firm. I mean, the U.S. government could just say, here's $1 gazillion for whatever company, and you would make it economically profitable for that company to hire more people and build more factories at the expense of, it's the seen cost, the seen benefit versus the unseen costs, right? Okay, but then what are you crushing with the heavy hand of government in order to support that one thing? Generally, a competitive market is the best. They're not perfect, and we need government intervention for a variety of reasons, or to just provide general welfare to people. But pretty much the last century has proved the government being overly involved in trying to make bets about which precise firm or industry needs this much support and which one doesn't, and having it all done through a central authority creates crippling poverty.
Well, and
every time.
And actually worsened the Great Depression back in around 1930, when there was an attempt to do protectionist policies around that time, and it was a catastrophe.
Yeah.
So, it's a big problem.
And if you want to look, I hear, people like my friends like Batya Ungar Sargon, who these are the kind of policies she wants, and she's out talking very eloquently in their favor. I hear you on the working class has taken some hits, and all of the benefits that have come from globalization and free trade, the people on the left, and then some people in my own kind of new right coalition like Batya will say, but are those benefits just going to already wealthy people? Are they really going to the working people? But what it's going to take to be able to have factories and factory jobs here again is not going to be tariffs that are done for diplomatic reasons, as an FU to Canada or whatever, because that's not enough certainty to start the process of building a factory and like a long-term business plan. What it would actually take to do that, it can be done, but it's things people on the left don't want to do. And in terms of NEPA, environmental protection, I think even some of that, maybe you could get left or progressive people on board with getting away with. This new Ezra Klein book on abundance has so many examples of just pointless. You need an environmental action impact report on anything, even things that have nothing to do with the environment, that just slows everything down. If you got rid of some of that, you could make it possible to maybe relocate some of these factories in the U.S. and other permanent fixes like that. The tariffs are not going to be a permanent fix because we're not even talking about them as being permanent.
Right.
Listen to Scott Bessent there. He's like, well, just hold on. This is being done for a reason.
Sure.
Bear the pain now. And that's as you said, it's a contradiction. It's an entirely different argument. If it's like 5 days of pain and then the rest of the world gets rid of all their tariffs, yeah, I'll say it was a success. I will be the first one to say, great, I'm glad. But that's not going to be about a industry building policy here.
It's not going to regenerate American manufacturing. Also, this is a separate conversation in a way, but part of the reason that American manufacturing and manufacturing generally has declined has been the rise of automation. It hasn't purely been the stealing of jobs from overseas. And we'll see whether Trump and the broader public are willing to bear the short-term pain that we're already seeing. The stock market was down at its open about 3%, I think, in the S&P 500 instantly. So
there's no sure way to wreck your mandate to govern by harming the economy.
Right.
It's the economy, stupid. The Bill Clinton insight, it's correct every time.
Yeah.
So we will see how this goes. Next up is Musk actually exiting Doge sooner than we think. We will discuss.